of leads on our research in the area of education in schools, education in English language, as well as research. So under this body, we have 5 divisions of Cambridge. One that leads on Cambridge, one that does the international school. So I think we are also speaking about, because there are more than 600 schools in India that are Cambridge affiliated, and students from here are looking for admissions into universities like yours. We are trying to have a connect with you to see how we can facilitate those, because earlier it used to be many of these students going overseas, but many of them are now looking at admissions within India. We run resources for schools. We run a awarding body, like your CBSE, we run an awarding body within the UK called OCR. And we also run the oldest press. So the first book was made in 1584. So the Cambridge University Press is quite old. We'll be celebrating, I think, a few milestones as we go into this millennia as well. So academic publishing, assessments, teacher development, and online research, those are the areas of focus that we have. But why we have come to talk to you all today is to look at a specific department of the University of Cambridge that focus on English language development. That's got a connect. I was following the last session, where they're looking at the national education policy, which is looking at certain outcomes where credit can be earned, and how the focus is on one side to build academic ability, but there is also clear focus on skill development within students. So from Cambridge, we have a clear solution which enables the academic ability. So the foundation English language could be developed for your graduates in your university. But we also essentially look at English as a skill. So we focus on listening, reading, writing, speaking. So for technical students, professional students, for lawyers, for other students, I don't think they need to know the literary English. I don't think it may be useful for them to follow Shakespeare or anything else. What's going to be really important for them is to follow English as a skill, so that when they learn whatever language they learn or whatever subject they learn, when they go back to whatever professions that they want to take up, they sufficiently have English as a skill. English for employability is a key area that you're focusing on many undergraduate programs across India, because these students, while some of them are getting into startups in India, there's a huge culture coming up, but many of them are looking for their first jobs as they leave the university. So the role of Cambridge is to partner with universities in India to try and see how we can enhance that employability. And finally, international mobility. It's a two-way street. There are students overseas who want to come to India to study, and there are a lot of Indian students who are going overseas to study. From Cambridge, we do have assessments like the International English Language Testing System, or IELTS, which is used by Indian students to go overseas. But we are also keen to partner with a lot of Indian universities to see if you're attracting students from overseas, how we can help you funnel to make sure that students from overseas can come into your institutions quite seamlessly. So today we are launching the initiatives of using this event as the torchbearer for launching a collaboration model for universities in India to become a Cambridge learning partner. Currently, we had different models. Last year, we brought our learning and assessment divisions together. We consolidated this non-teaching department of the University of Cambridge. So this collaboration will ensure that there is a clear knowledge partnership with Cambridge. A center of excellence can be instituted within your institutions, and students can develop their English language skills. Faculty development is core to this capacity building initiative, and also kind of looking at focus on outcomes. It's not enough just to do the learning, but it is also to demonstrate how much the students have acquired these skills, which either puts them on a pathway for employability within India and overseas, or for international studies. And finally, there are many institutions, I'm sure you would have noticed, there are coaching centers, so-called coaching centers, which are running programs for IELTS and all of that. These are unregulated ventures across India. And most of these students are undergraduate or postgraduate students. So we are trying to see how we can build capacity within institutions to run separate learning programs to benefit this. So this learning partnership, the Cambridge Learning Partner and Cambridge would have equal roles. We are looking at providing the best learning and content from Cambridge. We would work with your faculty. Cambridge is not a tuition organization or teaching university. So we would build capacity within your faculty, train them on the best pedagogy, provide them with the best resources so they can offer learning to your students and they can become best in class, offer assessments to demonstrate that they are best in class, and offer them a career pathway. So the learning center model, there are clear roles and responsibilities. This is something that we are taking this opportunity to launch, where the university would manage the program. They would become an extended arm of Cambridge to run these programs within your campuses. There are some government, some ministries that you're working where they're able to offer certain credits that are transferable. But essentially, instead of students going out to acquire some of these skills, both for employability and for go study overseas, we feel that if we can build capacity within the university, it can be incubated as a division within the university. That's the whole objective of putting together this model of a Cambridge Learning Partnership. So quickly summarizing the roles and responsibilities. So there would be a brand association between Cambridge and the university. There will be pedagogical support provided by Cambridge to the university. Content learning will be supplied and provided by Cambridge, but we also work with your team, your academic team, to build content as well that are suitable for India, because currently I can raise my hand and say that many of the Cambridge contents may be standardized for international benchmarks, not for domestic. So we'd like to partner with universities to create content that are suitable for contexts that are suitable for your universities. Teacher training is something that will be core of this whole engine of partnership. Digital content, certifications. This is again something where we are seeing a lot of participation from Indian universities, because while there is learning happening, many of these students are not able to demonstrate their language skills. How they can also be proficient in their mother tongue, but also use English as a skill is the key direction forward. That's our learning from the NEP, to say that if all of these students who studied in Hindi, Tamil, Telugu, whatever is their medium of instruction, when they come into university, if they can acquire this skill as well, other than their own mother tongue, we feel that we are putting our students for a pathway for success. Workshops and engagements and support overall is what Cambridge would be offering. So there is what do you call, it's a light touch model. There are very, very minor financials involved. It's not significant at all. But then there are these levels, which is a starter relationship, or an engaged partnership, or an advanced partnership. So there are various levels of engagement that Cambridge can partner with the university based on your requirement. So it's not like there is a standard offering and you need to take it to your institutions. You can choose what is going to be suitable for your university, your students, your context, and you can take it forward. Some of the key things there are, I think if you can see, we are focusing on employability quite significantly. So there is quite a placement assistance and significant HR industry connect is something that we are focusing on for our advanced partners, so that we can really bring in world-class skills for domain, which is the university's responsibility, along with domain for skills, which is something Cambridge can bring in for both employability and English language. So it's a collaboration model. It is not something we are offering a book, or we are offering an assessment to university. We are not here to sell anything. This is more collaborative, which means that you can choose what is going to be suitable in your context. The university run these programs. Some universities we already partnered with, they are able to kind of run this in a self-sustainable model, which means that they are able to generate certain returns, which they can fund for, say, a disadvantaged student or student who require financial support. So we're able to create certain sustainable models, which means that the program could be ongoing. So this is kind of the branding association that we would have. I think using this model, I've just taken the example. It could be any of the AIU partner university working with Cambridge. This is the brand association that we would build. We already work with certain universities in India. We work with National Skill Development Corporation. So this is an example of what we have tried using, but this is something that we would try and launch with some of your universities as well. As a final step, we do have colleagues from Cambridge outside. Whenever you're free, we would be happy to welcome you to kind of have a conversation with you. The idea is to sign a letter of intent, because currently you have only sketchy details. We'll be happy to talk to you more about it. Then do a detailed workshop. I'm just repeating, it's not a cut, copy, paste model. Each university will be a unique partnership. So we'll do a workshop with your university to find out what are your needs, and then based on which an agreement could be signed up to take this forward. And we are not interested in just signing an MOU. Actually, the whole idea is how can we jointly execute this? So with that, I will now pass this over to my colleague, Ms. Shamim Chaudhary, who leads on the work for the international schools. As I told you, there are more than 600 schools that work with Cambridge. We are looking at pathways for these students to join many of your universities. Shamim, over to you.
Thank you, Arunachalam TK. Now we move on to our third technical session, Reforms for Holistic Education. The discussions will primarily focus on the framework, design, and components of holistic education, address key issues in designing the curriculum for holistic education, share relevant, innovative, and best practice case studies, lessons in holistic education, ways to enable educational leaders, educators, policymakers, and other stakeholders to unlock and utilize the potential of holistic higher education, and work out strategies to initiate reforms for holistic education with special emphasis on sub-themes, promoting outcome-based learning, integrating skills with higher education, innovative assessment, and evaluation techniques. We have for this session the chairperson, Professor Gautam Borua, Director, IIIT Guwahati, co-chairperson, Professor Dhrubajyoti Chattopadhyay, Vice Chancellor, Sister Nivedita University. Speakers, Dr. Bashir Ahmad Shadark, Director, SEMCA, Srimati Monica S. Garg, IAS, Professor Vistap Kharbari. Will be joining us online, Professor, Department of Civil Engineering, the University of Texas, USA. May I request chairperson, co-chairperson, along with the speakers to kindly come over to the dais. May I request our Honorable Vice Chancellor, sir, Professor G.D. Sharma, sir, to kindly come over to the dais for the felicitations. Chairperson, Professor Gautam Borua, Director, IIIT Guwahati. Co-chairperson, Professor Dhrubajyoti Chattopadhyay, Vice Chancellor, Sister Nivedita University. Dr. Bashir Ahmed Shadark, Director, SEMCA. Srimati Monica S. Garg, Additional Chief Secretary, Government of Uttar Pradesh. Before we begin the session, thank you, sir. Before we begin the session, a brief introduction about our dignitaries on the dais. Professor Gautam Borua is the director of IIIT Guwahati for more than a decade. An institution builder, Professor Borua was the mentor director of IIIT Guwahati and IIT Patna. An IT expert, Professor Borua served as a professor in the Department of Computer Science and Engineering and as director IIT Guwahati. His research interest includes operating networks, database management systems. Professor Borua has a wide teaching experience of 13 years at IIT Kanpur, 18 years at IITG, and 7 years at IIITG in computer organization, operating system, database management system, and internet protocols. Under his able leadership, IIIT became the highest ranked IIITs under the central government. Professor Dhrubajyoti Chattopadhyay, Vice Chancellor, Sister Nivedita University, is a scientist and academic par excellence. He was the founder, Vice Chancellor of MIT University, Kolkata. Earlier, he was the Dean, Faculty of Science, Director, Center for Research in Nanoscience and Nanotechnology, and Pro-Vice Chancellor at the University of Calcutta. He visited many places, including US, UK, Brazil, South Korea, China, to name a few. He has around 133 research papers and 9 books, chapters to his credit till date. Dr. Bashir Ahmed Shadrach, Director SEMCA, prior to being this, he served the Commonwealth of Learning Canada as a skills advisor, where he started a new program initiative, Skills for Work, to impart employable and job-ready skills among the people of Commonwealth in collaboration with national government and local organizations. A skillful organizer, Dr. Shadrach managed ICT, 4D, and skill development programs in over 40 nations around the world, working for organizations such as the International Development Research Center, Canada, One World International, UK, Transparency International, Germany, and the British Council in India. He's also a consultant for UNESCO, UNIVOC, Germany, FCDO, UK, ITO, Geneva, ADB, the Philippines, UNDP, Iraq, Practical Action, UK, the Open University, UK, Article 19, UK, and the ICT Agency of Sri Lanka. He earned his PhD in Information Technology as a faculty student at Loughborough University, UK. Mrs. Monica S. Garg is the Additional Chief Secretary in Government of Uttar Pradesh. She's the 1989 batch IAS officer. She has worked in the education sector for more than 12 years, having headed Higher Education Department, Technical Education Department in the state, and National Institution of Fashion Technology. She is the force behind successfully implanting the NEP in Uttar Pradesh. Now, may I request, we have Professor Vistab Karbhari, Professor, Department of Civil Engineering 2, who will be joining us online. He is from the Department of Mechanical and Aerospace Engineering at the University of Texas, Arlington, where he served as president from 2013 to 2020. He's a fellow of the National Academy of Inventors, ASCE, ASM, IIFC, and Complete College, America, and is an elected member of the European Academy of Sciences and Arts. He's passionate about the opportunity of higher education and is known for his leadership on issues related to enhancing access, inclusivity, impactful research, and innovation. Now, may I request the chairperson for this session to kindly proceed with the session. Over to you, sir.
Thank you. So we are running a little late, but better late than never. So this topic of the theme for this session is very ambitious, talking about reforms for holistic education. Holistic education, to my mind, means everything. That's the education we are aiming for. What I think it means is that education is not only about the subject that you are studying, but education overall. And as teachers, we all know that it's the environment in which the teaching process takes place that helps us, that plays a big part in imparting learning and other forms of education to the students. So the campus of a university or institution the kind of standards we set. These are also, I think, parts of the holistic education system. At the same time, besides our courses, we also need to get our students up to speed. Maybe they have come from different backgrounds. So there is a lot of emphasis on soft skills. Then also in the getting specific skills where you can get jobs in, maybe because not all courses have direct correlation with the job market. And so there are so many other aspects, and some of these things are also being covered in the sub-themes. And I will leave it to the panelists, of course, to elaborate. My job is to listen, just like yours, and to make sure that nobody goes out of line. So now there are, as you have already heard, there are 3 speakers, and I'm told that each of them will get about 15 minutes to make a presentation. Now, the order in which the speakers will speak, we have to change it a little from the order in which they were introduced, because Professor Karwari is from the USA, and he's going to he's joined us hopefully already online. So we are giving him first shot at this. And I request therefore Professor Gustav Karwari, Professor, Department of Civil Engineering, University of Texas at Arlington, to please get things going and please give us a talk for at most 15 minutes. Less is better.
Sounds great. I hope everyone can see my screen.
Hello, we are not able to hear you. Are you mute?
Just a second. 1 second.
We can see some slides. We are not able to hear you, Professor. You're
Can
mute.
you hear me now?
Yes, yes.
Wonderful. Let me go back to the slides and
Yeah,
can you
please.
see the slides as well?
Not yet. We saw it just now. We will see it again, hopefully.
Okay, can you hear me and see the slides?
Yes, yes.
Wonderful. Well, good afternoon, everyone, and thank you very much for having me speak to you. At the very beginning, let me start out by taking the liberty of changing the topic slightly. So the topic was supposed to be reforms for holistic education. What I'd like to do is to change the topic to make it opportunities to create a higher education system for the 21st century through holistic education, because I see this as a great opportunity rather than a challenge and reform. Reform generally means there's something dramatically bad. And while we definitely need to make changes in the higher education system, it's not dramatically bad, we're doing well, but we need to do much better. If you look at holistic, and if you try to define it by itself, it's basically related to or concerned with wholes of the complete system, rather than the analysis or treatment or dissection into parts, and the characterization that parts of something are interconnected and can be explained only by reference to the whole. So in short, what it means is we're looking at this overall viewpoint of how we can take a student and make them into a complete citizen who is highly educated and highly knowledgeable. Just as background, if we look at the skills that are sort of looked at in terms of the World Economic Forum, and here I'm showing you the skills that were marked for 2025, and I've put in red those that were marked for 2020, and those in green were marked for 2015. And you'll see that there is a change that has occurred over the past 5 years as we've gone forward. The top skills for 2025 are of analytical thinking and innovation, active learning, complex problem solving that was the first both in 2020 and 2015. That's a critical thinking and analysis, creativity, originality, and initiative, and then we go through a number of others. But if you really look at it, what it's basically telling us is that we need a change in approach. We need a change in approach from a one-size-fits-all paradigm that we all are used to, where students are expected to have the same background, be at the same position in life, have the same time to focus on school, and have the same goals. And they receive the same information at the same time at the same pace, meaning it is not individualized. And we need to change the system to a more flexible, a more equitable model where learning can be supportive of both an educated citizenry and a skilled workforce simultaneously, based on ensuring engagement and support 24/7, 365, and specifically being self-paced, adaptive, personalized, focusing on the learner rather than just the student or the teacher, and for it to be interactive, experiential, and fully immersive, active, collaborative, and inquiry focused. So if you look at it, what we're really doing is we're looking at an evolution in education. We're looking at an evolution in education from one that we are all used to, one that is used specifically in India, where we are very, very heavily into the domain. It's an I-shaped education where we are highly skilled in that one discipline, to what is being used in India and in the rest of the world now, which is T-shaped, where we have a general education that serves as the top, if you will, and then an expertise in a single area or a discipline. But if you look at it, this is not enough for the modern learner and for the person who is really supposed to learn about information that continues to evolve and that continues to change. We really need a pie-shaped, at least, if not more, or a comb-shaped, but a pie-shaped at the minimum, where holistically we are giving the student, the learner, a humanistic or a genuine education core. We're then providing disciplinary experience and expertise that continues to evolve with time, and then domain skills such as media communications, AI/ML, and data analysis. The key is that these should not be courses by themselves, but they have to be integrated together. And as we go further and further with the changes in knowledge and information, we really need to have more and more domains for every single individual. So if you look at it, we could talk for hours and hours on it. So I'm just going to pick on a few topics within this holistic nature to show you where we need to go and why we need to go. So let's look at experiential learning, which is something we all talk about in terms of the holistic experience. I won't go through the whole slide, but what I'm going to try to focus on over here is that it changes from a lecture-based or instructor-focused to something that is activity-based and student-focused. From something where learning is predefined, it's a textbook, to something where learning is discovery-based. The student is truly involved, the knowledge is gained, the focus is on application, the curriculum is open, flexible, and multidisciplinary. And it is where technology enables significant opportunities for even further things to be done. The students are driving this entire process. And an important part for us to keep in mind is this cannot just be changed from the current curriculum. We have to redesign our entire curriculum to make it active learning based and to make it with experiential learning so that we can have practical experiences built into the curriculum so that we simultaneously provide for the student the academic knowledge that they're going to need, the application of that academic knowledge, and the application in real life all together, so that the student is engaged through self-motivation and it enhances partnerships between institutions of higher education and the outside world. In doing all this, dynamic engagement of the student is absolutely essential. And we can start with the easiest part, which is adaptive and personalized learning and active learning. But we also need to talk about holistic advising, counseling, telehealth to look after the wellness of the student. When we talk about holistic, we really need to talk about mind and body. We need to talk about sociological connectivity, learning, training, the social being, the social aspects of it, and then build that into our AR and VR-based immersive learning skills developments so that we're not restricted by just having an internship. We could also bring the outside world to the student wherever they are and take knowledge to the student to really form the 21st century university. If we try to build all of this, we really need to look at a curriculum that is based on outcomes. And by outcomes, we shouldn't talk about that the grades for all the students will be a first class or a distinction. The outcomes are what are the skills that they will have by the time they complete not just one course, but a series of courses. And these outcomes need to be for preparation for the workforce, for entrepreneurship, and for life. And so if you look at them, they really can be divided into three parts: the applied knowledge, which is what we all talk about; then the effective relationship, the soft skills, the humanistic skills that very often are lacking amongst our students today; and then the workforce skills that we all assume are going to come when a student gets a job. But we're all told that this is what the companies would like for us to have provided to students before they graduate. When we build a curriculum, then we have to be able to build a curriculum putting all of these things into it, knowing that when we actually have a student going through a course, they are going to have outcomes that say they will have interpersonal skills that allow them to do X. They will be able to communicate and be able to give a written report in Y. Or they will have a sociological understanding or a cultural appreciation of something else in addition to the deep disciplinary knowledge that they have. And when we talk about disciplinary knowledge, it's not that they will know about thermodynamics, but they will know about what thermodynamics can do for them as they enter the workforce and what sort of problems can they actually solve. If you look at examples of outcomes and assessment, which becomes very, very difficult to just grasp in a second, what we're really talking about is that we have to set goals, for example, for our undergraduate learning experience. These goals come from disciplinary specializations, they come from critical thinking, they come from communications and media skills, collaboration and group dynamics, sociocultural understanding, and global citizenship. Building all of these integrated into our courses, not saying if you take a course and then you do a study abroad, then yes, you'll get that skill. We have to bring all of that into our courses, into the curriculum. We have to have the core discovery outcomes, such as oral and written communications and critical thinking, the humanistic knowledge, the natural sciences, the capstone projects, not just when they graduate, but in each year, in each semester, in each term, so that they can integrate that knowledge together with program level goals that says, what are the competencies that a student needs to have by the time they're ready to graduate to join the workforce? What are the competencies in those disciplines so that we can also have multiple entry and exit points? So we should be able to say that if a student stops after the second year and decides to join the workforce, they are prepared and these are the competencies that are given to it. And therefore we have to put together not just assessment plans, but matrices of these outcomes as well and integrate into them the co-curricular outcomes. These are not now extra things. We used to call them extracurricular outcomes. These are things that some students would do, but not all. We need to build it into the curriculum based on the outcomes of internships, research, even at the undergraduate level, so as to allow students to develop those critical thinking, team building skills, service learning, and experiential and scenario-based, the what if question that we don't ask too much of. Connectivity, therefore, is many faceted. It's not just the formal teaching that we are used to, but it's learning through discovery and inquiry on one side, but integrating that knowledge with workforce skills on the other side, simultaneously doing this, looking at inter, multi, and cross-disciplinary, and looking at the wellness of the mind and body, and connecting throughout with the non-academic world. Not just having a visiting person from industry coming once in a while, but having professors of practice. Not just saying that the learning will take place at the university, but the learning will also take place in the corporate and the non-for-profit sectors, bringing through simulations, AR and VR, all that information into the university, making sure that our students graduate with a great knowledge, not just in their discipline, but also in critical areas such as AI and ML, in big data, in simulation and AR and VR, and how they can bring it together. So in closing, what I'd like to do is talk about some of the shifts that are going to be needed and how we do it. In the US, we've done it significantly now, and I'm hoping that as India goes forward with the NEP 2020, you can actually leapfrog above us because you learn from all the mistakes that we've made. We have to be able to go from a focus on academic knowledge to an integration of academic knowledge and workforce skills. They're not separate. It's a misnomer that these two things are separate and cannot be combined. We have to go from an emphasis on grades to one that is based on learning outcomes, focused on an outcomes-based curriculum, which means we actually have to change our curriculum. You can't just say, rewrite the syllabus and say, if you do this, you will learn that. You actually have to start off with what do we want the students to be competent in, and then build a syllabus backwards based on that. We have to move from this time honored time and seat. If you sit for one semester, you will be fine, to more of a competency based. Spend as much time as you need, obviously not years and years, but within that term, to get the competency that is needed. To move from theory to experiential based learning by doing. From being in the classroom by itself, sitting in a chair by ourselves and looking at the sage on the stage, to being exposed globally. To change from being digital natives, which is where our students are, to actually being digitally informed and adaptive. It is very different to just being able to click on a computer and find things on the screen, to actually understanding what is and to be able to use all the tools that are now available. From being focused on a textbook and lecture-derived knowledge to being enabled to learn from inquiry and discovery, so that every student, in addition to the path that is defined for them, also defines their own learning pathways and processes. And therefore being able to go from only having that I, which is that deep disciplinary knowledge, to having more of a broad humanistic education, integrated with the disciplinary expertise and experience in key domains such as media and communications, sociological understanding, and the social communication, and AI, ML, data science, ethics. I think when we bring all this together, we will truly enable learning for the 21st century. With that, I hope I haven't exceeded my time, and I'll yield back to the chair.
Thank you, Professor Karvari. You have kept your time very well. And thank you very much for a well-organized talk. You've covered a lot of stuff. We will summarize towards the end.
Thank you.
We'll move forward, and I'll request Srimati Monica Garg to be the next speaker.
Thank you. On कर लो सर। Slideshow। नहीं हुआ बेटा। नहीं चल रहा। Okay. Thank you, Professor Karbhari. First of all, I must thank you for setting the context of my talk. Good afternoon, Chairperson, Co-Chairperson, and distinguished participants of the conference. I'm not able to run the slideshow. I'm not able to run the slideshow, beta. The slideshow is not running. Okay. Too many. No, I can't go to the first slide. I want to go to the first slide. Let me check. Yes. Is it on? Okay, thank you. The audio is not working. Excuse me. The audio is not working. We checked it yesterday, it was working. What has happened today? No. Okay.
Yes.
So how do I go back to the first slide now? Let me keep standing here till we see the audio.
आत्मनिर्भर भारत का ये राह स्किल डेवलपमेंट और टेक्नोलॉजी से होकर जाता है। इस पर एनडीपी में विशेष ध्यान दिया गया।
Well, when Honorable Prime Minister launched National Education Policy in 2020, he envisioned the development of an enlightened, knowledgeable, and skilled nation that would be able to find solutions, robust solutions to its problems. Ladies and gentlemen, we need to work towards his vision by bringing changes in the higher education. More importantly, by focusing on integrating skills with education. While I talk about this, I'll make my presentation in 4 parts in say about 15 minutes. First, I will quickly touch upon the current scenario, which 2 speakers from Haryana yesterday touched upon, elaborated very well. Then I will share with you a story from NIFT. National Institute of Fashion Technology is a premier national institute providing higher education in the field of fashion studies. In the third part of my presentation, I will talk about the initiatives we have taken in Uttar Pradesh in this regard under the able leadership of our Honorable Chief Minister Yogi Adityanath ji, and then I will sum up with the road ahead. Friends, let me begin with one statement. National Education Policy 2020 is a most relevant departure from earlier policies on education, and this will lead the country into Amrit Kal, bringing an unprecedented transformation in the employment scenario. The policy marks a paradigm shift in terms of focus on skilling. Success will lie in proper implementation. Let us look at the current scenario. Skill gap is a quagmire both for individual and industry. India Skills Report 2023 indicates that employability of our graduates is only 50.3%. The Labor Force Survey 2022-23 says that only 3.3% of our labor has got some formal training and about 10% others have got some kind of informal training. This is way below the figures of developed countries. In China, 24% have obtained formal training. In US, it is 52%, 75% in Germany, 80% in Japan, and 96% in South Korea. What are the causes leading to this situation in our country? Well, the causes are multifarious. And to my mind, a very important cause is that vocational training and skilling are not treated at par with the regular streams of education. The general perception is that vocational education is inferior to the mainstream education. This spills over into academics as well, though many BTech students get a pay package lower than those passing out of ITIs and polytechnics. This is a matter of serious concern and needs to be dealt with by a complete reimagination of how vocational education is to be imparted to our students. The moot point is where to start. First, we need to understand the demographics. Out of the 12 million people which come into the skill force every year, more than half of them are graduates. So there is a greater need to skill the graduates than anyone else in this country at the moment. Skilling programs are a top up over and above the regular programs. For example, BCom is a general program, but if a student wants to become a GST expert, he has to undergo a GST skilling program. The need is to shift the skilling focus to the graduate space, and that is precisely what NEP 2020 intends to do. Let us look at what some reputed national institutes have done in this regard. I will share with you a story from NIFT, which is very close to my heart. We are all aware that India has a rich heritage of handlooms and handicrafts, and there are hundreds of clusters of weavers across the country, clusters of weavers and artisans. A 3-week cluster attachment was integrated into the regular NIFT curriculum with due weightage in the college credit system. I repeat, the cluster attachment was made a part of the regular NIFT program curriculum and was given assigned credits also. Students were required to stay with the weavers and artisans for 21 days in the field, pick up their skills, learn the nuances of various arts and crafts. Over the last 8 or so years, NIFT students have looked at charkha, loom, weaving, spinning, welding, molding, melting in various clusters across the country. They now know where to source niche products like kani, patni, patola, batik, ikat, brocade textiles, and the best of the products in wood, metal, bamboo, and terracotta handicrafts. Important, they know the difference between handloom and powerloom, machine spun and hand spun cloth, and organic and chemical dyes. The process has been advantageous for the students, and it has led to a windfall for the weavers as well. They have improved their designs, they have improved their technology, they have diversified their product mix. They have learned about the importance of displaying the products. They have learned about e-marketing. These are some of the slides showing the design interventions and product diversification brought about by the NIFT students in some local arts and crafts. I would like to narrate 2 incidents here, even at the cost of stretching beyond my allotted time. One is about a cluster from Madhya Pradesh, where the weavers from Maheshwar and Chanderi, they came to the NIFT campus and they tried to sell their traditional saris to the NIFT faculty for 4,000 rupees each. None of the faculty was interested in picking them up because they were very garish, very gaudy. Lo and behold, what a 3-week cluster attachment did to it. The students replaced most of the golden thread in the sari with silk or cotton thread and converted it into an evening wear sari with very beautiful geometric prints. Now this sari cost the weaver about 1680 rupees only, and NIFT members, NIFT faculty and the DG, that is me, were very happy to pick it up even for 4,000 rupees. This was so beautiful. Not only the sari, the Maheshwar and Chanderi cloth was converted into fancy curtains, cushion covers, and home decor, which we find in abundance in the markets and malls these days. A second story is about the story of the dolls of India. They make dolls out of beads in Jhabua, Madhya Pradesh, and we are aware of Chennapatna toys of Ramnagar of Karnataka, the wooden dolls. Now, these dolls were being sold in the village hut for 5 rupees each. And the students, they looked at them, converted them into earrings, keychains, card danglers. The slender, long dolls, they picked up, put a hook on top of it and converted into a ear dangler. The fat, round, plump dolls were converted into keychains and card danglers. And they started selling in Delhi Hut for 80 rupees each. One doll was sitting like this. It was only this big. And I was thinking what the students will do with it. And after a week or so, I saw that students put a piece of cloth here and converted it into a coaster. Another set of students put a Velcro on the arms of the doll and converted it into napkin holders. And in front of our eyes, the Taj people, Taj Hotel people, they came and picked them up for 200 rupees each. So this is the kind of value addition we are looking at when we talk of integrating skills with education. Value addition for the students, value addition for the industry, value addition for Atmanirbhar Bharat, value addition towards the $5 trillion economy that we are envisaging. The crux of the matter is integrate skill training into the mainstream education. NEP 2020 has given us an unparalleled opportunity to re-envision the syllabus, reimagine the pedagogy, and restructure the assessment criteria. Taking advantage of this, in Uttar Pradesh, skill education has been smoothly integrated into the regular mainstream curriculum. Let me step back and take you quickly through the journey. Uttar Pradesh is leading in the implementation of NEP 2020 in the higher education sector. Having implemented the new curriculum in July 21, that is about 2 years ago. Multidisciplinary education for holistic development, semester system, choice-based credit system, they have been implemented in 10,000 degree colleges and 50 universities across the state since the academic session 21-22. The impact is visible. Universities and colleges are improving their accreditation status. As on date, since then, 3 state universities have secured NAC A++ grade, and half a dozen private universities have scored A and above. Investment is flowing in the higher education sector. 64 firms are set to invest 2.57 lakh crores of rupees in the state. And the impact of NEP 2020 and its focus on skill is visible at the national level also. The latest India Skills report points out that the employability levels have increased from 46% to 50%. The skills report also points out that 89% of the graduates are seeking internship opportunities. The survey indicates, I will read from the survey, candidates from Uttar Pradesh, Maharashtra, and Delhi have the highest employability. Another indicator of effective implementation of NEP 2020 in the higher education sector in Uttar Pradesh. Now I'll just tell you about a couple of initiatives that we have taken in the state to integrate skill training into the mainstream education. In all universities in the state, it has been made mandatory for the students to take up a skill course in the first 4 semesters of the UG program. And this course carries a total of 12 credits. The skill courses being offered at the secondary school and inter-college level have been mapped and aligned with those on offer in ITIs, polytechnics, and degree colleges. This was a tough and challenging exercise, but needs to be undertaken if we want the students to have a progression. The skill courses that we have designed are individual and progressive in nature, so that a student can specialize in different skills in different semesters, or may specialize in one skill in all the semesters. These skill courses have been designed keeping in mind the local needs and facilities, as Dr. Vivek Debroy was saying yesterday, that the demand and need of the industry needs to be kept in mind while skilling the students. Skill courses, E-India skill courses are also being permitted for skill course credit transfer in the state. The digital revolution in our country, friends, over the last 8 or 9 years has made it possible for us to access such rich resources as E-India skills. I would like to reiterate that we have assigned credits for a skill course, and by doing this, vocational courses are now treated at par with the other academic subjects and are being accorded a similar status in the stream of subjects. Now, this will not only help in promoting vocational skilling, but will also help in increasing the social signaling for skilling, which will change the general perception in our society that I talked about in the beginning. As Professor Karbhari was talking about experiential learning, this is the second initiative that has been taken in Uttar Pradesh, that experiential learning has been added in the course curriculum of all subjects. In every subject, every year, one complete chapter is dedicated to the applicational and practical aspects. For example, in zoology, it is aquaculture and fisheries. In commerce, computerized accounting and digital marketing. In geography, it is remote sensing, thematic surveys and mapping, lab testing in chemistry, museology and anthropology, biomechanics and sports. Even in language subjects, we have introduced skill part, experiential learning in the form of script writing, dialogue writing, translation, computer typing, editing, reporting, feature writing.
Ma'am, we are running out of time.
I'll just take 5 more minutes, sir, if you permit, because you want me to close?
2 minutes, 2 minutes.
Okay. No, I'll take 5 minutes if you want me to, otherwise I'll close here.
2 minutes, madam, 2 minutes.
Okay. So I'll then quickly run through the slides. I'll skip one or two of the slides. And I'll go back to this slide because this is important. The state is also making endeavors to promote Sanskrit as a modern language and a classical language. Sampurnanand Sanskrit University is offering online training programs in employment-oriented courses. इससे अर्चक, पुरोहित, ज्योतिषी, वास्तुशास्त्री बनकर लोग अपना जीविका उपार्जन कर सकेंगे. Now, efforts have been made to ensure that we were talking about, that Professor Karbhari also mentioned, that a student, when she exits, in case of an early exit, she gets a skill. For example, if a BSc biology student exits after 1 year, she will get a certificate for, say, medical diagnostics and public health. And if she exits after 2 years, she will get a diploma in molecular diagnostic and genetic counseling. I'll skip this whole part of industry academia linkage because that is going to take time. And I'll now sum up. So the 3 initiatives taken in Uttar Pradesh, and this is to recapitulate how Government of India is focusing on equipping workforce with employable skills and how it has shown the impact in the recent surveys. Well, friends, the journey of change in the education landscape in India has begun. In less than 9,000 days from now, India will be 100 on 15th August 2047. And then 20% of the world's workforce will be here in India. Ladies and gentlemen, we need to harness this demographic dividend. When vocational education and mainstream education are properly integrated, this India's demographic dividend can be leveraged into a huge set of skilled professionals. The journey has begun. The journey is full of opportunities and challenges. And believe me, the fruits will be sweet. Thank you.
Thank you, Srimati Garg. The third speaker will now request Dr. Bashir Ahmed Shadrach to give his speech.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, AAU and USTM for hosting such a wonderful event. Thank you to the Vice Chancellors who are here, who's in small number as compared to yesterday. And that shows your dedication to the topic and your interest in the topic. Thank you for this opportunity. And my previous speakers have emphasized upon the 21st century skills and vocational skills as important as the other academic pursuits that we all support our students to acquire in their learning journey. But my discussion today is going to be more around what are the institutional mechanisms that we can put in place in order to ensure that going forward, our education is outcome-based. I don't have to give a lot of lecture on outcome-based education. There has been a lot of debate around this topic for a while. And if you read the history and the background to this whole idea of outcome-based education, there is as much there is an uptake, there's also this criticism against this whole move. Perhaps from a point of view that the early definitions were not very apt to the changing nature of and the evolution of education systems in various parts of the world. So we have seen this implemented in the United States, in South Africa, in Australia, and other places, also in India, but there has been a kind of a step back to understand and relate with this whole notion of outcome-based education. And I think in that context, the previous lectures from Ms. Garg and Professor Karbari are quite noteworthy because, in their advocacy a while ago, they emphatically brought in the dimensions of the 21st century skills, the future industry 4.0 skills, and interestingly, from Ms. Garg's point of view, the vocational skills are extremely important. And we, as Commonwealth of Learning, work with a variety of institutions, ranging from the CBSE to Association of Indian Universities, also with the vocational stream, with NITER, National Skill Development Corporation, PSS, CIVE, and DG Training, and others. And we discover that, the education system needs to be strengthened in every form, every stream. And the Commonwealth of Learning as an organization was initiated 36 years ago, solely dedicated to open, distance, and technology-enabled learning. When technology was not that pervasive, today we are talking about BARD. A couple of days ago, they opened up for everyone to experiment ChatGPT 4, which integrates imaging as well with regard to generative AI. We are into the AI era, but 37 years ago, there were visionaries who founded this institution, and we work with a variety of universities, interestingly, open and distance universities to begin with. But today, thanks to COVID and the National Education Policy 2020, we see an opportunity to work with almost all the 1,000 universities under the umbrella of AIU. And not only in India, we work in 56 Commonwealth countries where we bring experience of blended learning. And now with the National Education Policy, we see every institution, not only the universities, but also the affiliated colleges have the opportunity to go blended and to embrace technology-enabled learning practices. We build a lot of capacity and we don't charge. We work with institutions like AIU and others to bring these value proposition to organizations. And we work with NIFT and others, CBSE, to also look at the curriculum for, say, in this case, we are looking at the 11th standard curriculum offered in CBSE schools to see if how we can transform the fashion technology curriculum to be delivered in blended mode, so that a lot of these, what Ms. Garg mentioned in terms of the apprenticeship, could also be acquired through simulation and other online practices. That said, the topic given was reforms in holistic education. I don't want to deviate from the topic. I was asked to speak particularly in outcomes-based education. And in the previous session, we talked about ratings and rankings and so on. And oftentimes we confuse ourselves between outcomes and outputs, competence, this is qualification, and I put down some more terminologies there. And these are all very important terminologies for us to actually focus on. Because, to tell you in a very simplistic manner, the difference between output and outcomes, and of course, you all would recognize this, when it comes to students graduating from institution, it's an output. And as a higher education institution, we are all interested in students graduating from institutions. But with regard to outcomes, it's the quality of students that are graduating and how they are able to relate with the world around them, particularly with competences, knowledge, skills, abilities, attitude, performance, usefulness to society and the industry. And these are all what qualify us to focus on quality and outcomes. And now when it comes to many of these, we are very busy in collecting business data, what we call business data, how many people were enrolled, how many teachers are there, the student learning, teacher ratio, all these are very important. But I think as pointed out earlier by Dr. Zere earlier in the session, I think the outcomes are measured in terms of how they actually deliver goods for the society and going forward. In this context, I want to really mention, ask us to focus on, as higher education institutions, on the definitional issues. When it comes to outcomes-based education, I mentioned earlier that there have been challenges. People have withdrawn from outcomes-based education, partly because of the way that they understood. And today I want to focus, encourage us to focus on the three areas of outcomes and how in the prism of the policy, the prism of the learners, and from the market point of view, so that we can not only redefine, but also prepare ourselves as education institutions. What do the policies say when it comes to outcomes? Policy is very clear. NEP is a stunning example, but if you actually analyze the policies, educational policies, national education policies of various countries, it's actually putting leaders on the global stage, economic growth, social justice, equality, scientific advancement, national integration, and so on. This is what the policy expects students to be in the future as they come out of the higher education institutions. What are the lookouts of the students? And there was some disagreement with Dr. Zere's take on students' interest in the university earlier on the session. And there were some people nodding their heads. But you could see that the students' outcomes as perceived by students are they want to advance their abilities. They want to pursue their interests. They want to shape up their own personalities. They want to engage. They want to look at social aspects. A large number of students are today conscious of the Sustainable Development Goals and the future generations, and they want to access opportunities. When it comes to market, we should be very mindful that the market is looking more than certificates and the qualifications, talent and skills, and that was very well noted in the previous two discussions. They are looking at their own growth and development as a market, whether it's private or public sector. They want people to apply the academic skills and also possess the range of skills that my previous speakers talked about, so that the employees or entrepreneurs could own themselves, their own actions, and indulge in self-development. So this is how I see outcomes, and the education ought to be from the point of view of the policy, from the point of view of the market, and also from the point of view of the learners. What do education institutions do? I think we have heard a lot about what education institutions could do in terms of embracing, Industry 4.0, vocational skills. We also talked a lot about the advances in technology, 21st century skills, and so on. But I want to come to this particular experiment where Commonwealth of Learning, my organization, is working with a variety of associations similar to AIU around the world with the International Distance Education Council, with the Asian Association of Open Universities, with Open Polytechnic New Zealand, Open University China, with UNISA, University of South Africa, the Arab Network for Quality Assurance in Higher Education, Association of Arab Universities, and so on. And I actually invite the Association of Indian Universities and others to also take a serious note of this benchmarking effort that we are into, which would really speak to the points that I put on the screen. How do we see these institutions, particularly the open distance technology-enabled institutions, respond to outcomes-based education? It's mainly by fine-tuning the teaching and learning practices. What do we mean by fine-tuning teaching and learning practices? It's about student engagement. It's about innovation in pedagogies, delivery methods, agile to learning styles. It's about assessment strategies. It's about feedback mechanisms that we have put in place in terms of ensuring that learning, teaching converts into learning. Is the content, the quality of content and the context of content, the quality of faculty members, their credentials and their preparedness to embrace the distance and technology-enabled world, and their ability to create flexible pathways and curricula and personalization opportunities for students, the online course development process and the delivery methods, interactivity of e-learning content that they put out, their ability to use learning analytics to understand how learning happens within the institution so that they can align with learning outcomes. The second aspect is equally important, student support services, particularly from the point of view of the availability, accessibility, and the quality of services offered to students as well as to the faculty members, and to what extent we take note of the cultural context from which the students come. Yesterday, there were discussions around internationalization of education, and we recognize that there is an important element of student support services and others to be put in place, including academic and career counseling, placement, and do we have service standards and charters drawn out for our institutions? Do you have multi-channel platforms for communication? So these are all the aspects that would enable building blocks for outcome-based education. When it comes to technology and infrastructure, oftentimes we are stuck in terms of choice of technology and appropriateness of technology, because after we invested, we have a problem in going back. So it is important for us to invest in technology, but ensure that the technology is reliable, it's available, it's responding to the needs, but also personal data protection and agility to any disruption, any emergencies should need to be looked into. And I also want to draw your attention to the outcomes. And yesterday I was talking to a Vice Chancellor who is here from Martin Luther Christian University in Shillong. She was mentioning about community connect. When it comes to outcomes and impact on society, we are talking about not only graduate employability, but also and choice-based approaches, but community engagement and industrial partnerships. And we are also talking about employer satisfaction and the tracer studies we need to undertake in order to ensure that we are actually in the path of the 2047, 9,000 days journey from now on in terms of ensuring and delivering outcomes-based education. Finally, I also want to touch upon the diversity, equity, inclusion aspects, which was mentioned. And this morning, Alokji spoke very well about the inclusion aspect when somebody raised the issue about remoteness and rural students and others. But I think we need to also have rubrics in terms of introspecting ourselves, whether we are leaving anybody behind. We are also looking at international diversity of students and the faculty, the gender diversity, access to women, and so on, minorities and special interest groups, and so on. So we need to also prepare ourselves in the whole realm of this ecosystem in terms of with policies that would enable our institutions to actually create outcomes-based education. This is where I come back to the definitional problem that we had globally with outcomes-based education, because the definition was skewed. But if you look at from a holistic point of view, you could come up with a definition which is actually technology-enabled, blended, open education resources as knowledge sharing and cost sharing mechanism, and blending all sorts of blends, not only online and offline blend, but also in the teaching and learning practices blends, flipped classrooms, somebody mentioned yesterday, and not only having the policy, but also ability to implement those policies within the institutions so that our education is outcome-based, but also review those policies over a period of time. How could associations like AAU could help? In a minute, I want to quickly run through. I think AAU and others should enable universities to recognize the need for holistic approach to education based on outcomes, so that there could be a long-term development plan developed for the 1,000 universities and many more to come. And this is where I think this benchmarking effort that we are into, in terms of working with a variety of institutions, would come into play, so that you could develop sort of undertake a self-assessment. Ranking and ratings are all provided by others, and we always have difficulties in accepting the ratings and the rankings. But when it comes to self-assessment of our own institutions, based on these 5-6 points that I mentioned, we can come up with rubrics. We can come up with a kind of a temperature test to see if our institutions are really outcomes-based. And in order to do that, do we have all the building blocks in our system? And either we can develop our own for the Indian system, or you can join the global consortium, and they invite you to do so. And my organization can also help. Thank you so much.
Thank you. So that completes the presentations by the speakers here. Now we'll have questions and answers and maybe brief comments. If you are going to ask a question or make a comment, your time limit is 15 seconds. Yes, please. 15 seconds of comments.
Well, thank you. They are not, it's not a question, just a comment and an addition. I would compliment Dr. Monica Garg and what she talked about value addition. So I think we talk about skill development and we forget this part, that is to add value. So when I was in Kanpur also, we did the Atmanirbhar Kanpur movement and we did that. We added value. We reached, and I also want to address one question which was raised in the morning about rural development. We have to promote their skills and the universities can add value. For that, Sagar University has also created a website. And with the help of this website, we help these rural people to promote their skills. So I want that this suggestion should be incorporated, that in addition to skill, value addition should also be promoted by the universities.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Sir.
I congratulate Dr. Monica Garg for such a wonderful work done in UP under her guidance. The integration of the academic syllabus in reality is not there. You may have credits imparted to skill training, but you see in olden times when I will drive a scooter, I cannot fix even an automobile brake shoe or a wire, while a person uneducated can do that. Where is the training, actual training? We do not have anybody trained in CNC. We do not have actual training. What industry is doing today? Industry is not contributing anything for the welfare of the society except giving the tax. Now the industry must come up and take my boys for practical training in CNC or in automobile or in agriculture. You will be doing a wonderful job if the syllabus is covered in industry, the skill, not in the classrooms, because they don't have the facility.
Okay, thank you. Got the point. Industrial training is important.
Yeah. My name is C.S. Dubey. I'm Vice Chancellor of KR Bangla University. Industry, really, the industry problems are, we don't know the universities doesn't know the industry problems. And to find out those industrial problems is a big problem. And how you are going to attach, you make out the outcomes for that. The second important thing I know COL is doing very good in the OERs, open education resources. I think this would have been a would have been a platform from where we could have done some digital library kind of thing for the OER. This is my suggestion. For open education resources, we can produce a library together, a digital library, which can work on the aspects with Commonwealth Learning, who's doing very good in the sense at this through AIU. This is my suggestion. And the last but not the least, how we are doing it, the industrial problems. We do a reverse curriculum, reverse engineering in the curriculum. What we do is we take out all the jobs which are from Google, LinkedIn, and others. And we find out three things: soft skills, coding, programming, and the essential learnings. And we just try to imbibe them in the gaps in the syllabuses and try to work on that. So this is my suggestion, that we can do things like that. Thank you.
Yeah. Maybe
So-
somebody can ask a question now.
Yeah,
Okay.
I'm asking a questions. Professor S.P. Singh, the Assam Royal Global University. My question is that the session was for holistic education, and somehow we restricted ourselves to skilling only. So I think probably I would request, because from curriculum to Madam Monica Garg's presentation, it was more skills, and especially skills which relates to technical skills. There are maybe 10 lakhs of skills we are not talking about. And I think there was always there was a skilling in higher education. We should not misnomer that earlier education system was not having a skilling. That is my question. Can somebody clarify that the education system without those Skill India movement was without the skills? This is my question.
I have a question for the professor from the University of Texas at Arlington.
Yeah. So when we talk about the higher education being integrated in terms of with the skills, there essentially we are addressing an issue of making the students to practice the subject that they learn or study. And then, and there were exactly the issue of on the basis of that, they can gain the gainful employment. That is what basically the thought has gone. But then when we talk about the skilling, particularly in the higher education, immediately we jump on to the artisan that Madam has given the concrete examples of it. So therefore, and he has also rightly pointed out, so the artisans, if you look at the history of the artisans, there are no education, they are not educated or trained people. But then we are citing them because even today they are relevant in terms of getting the getting the gainful employment. And that is the reason as to why we are citing these examples, but they were not trained.
Okay.
But they are missing because skills we look at from three different perspectives. One,
Sir, we
profession.
do not have time. So
Yes,
you are
sir.
supposed to make a
So
go on your
therefore,
idea, sir.
whether it could be defined clearly what is the professional skills,
Yes. No,
occasional skills,
yeah.
and the evocational skills.
Yes.
Unless we decipher, we will not be in position to address the issue as far as the higher education is concerned.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, please.
Let me first clarify that since because of the paucity of time and because of the topic given to me, it was integrating skills, but otherwise UP has implemented holistic education in the sense that we have focused on ethics, hygiene, communication, and personality development as well by a different way, but that would also require another 15 minutes to talk about. So we forget about that. Now, skilling, what I was talking about was, it is not that skilling was not there in the higher education, but as sir just pointed out from the right, our BTech student was not able to fix a scooter, he says, and that was true. But now we are focusing on experiential learning. Skilling is only one part. How the industry academia connect has been established is that we have signed an MOU with the Department of Small and Medium Enterprises at the state level. So initiative has been taken at the state level, following which 36 universities have signed an MOU with the trade and industry organizations in the field. And now ITIs have entered into collaboration with Raymond, Maruti, Tatas, and our degree colleges and universities have entered into MOU with other industries. Now they are providing the apprenticeship and internship opportunities to the students. So this was one aspect that I wanted to talk about. About the thousands and lakhs of other skills, yes, that is the road ahead. This is only a beginning. We need to scale it up. We need to pace it up. We need to look at the AI, machine learning. We need to look at metaverse. We need to look at how HR departments are going to be reshaped in view of probably human-machine interface or probably integration with robots. Metaverse is going to change the whole world of entertainment, education, and travel. So we need to equip our students with those skills. At the moment, because of the paucity of time, I was focusing only on the Atmanirbhar Gaon, Atmanirbhar Bharat concept. Otherwise, yes, there are hundreds of other skills.
I have a question for the professor from the University of Texas at Arlington. Now, holistic education requires a university to be very composite and comprehensive, that it has the capacity to deliver that type of a holistic education. Unfortunately, not many universities are endowed with that type of capacity and resources. So does UTA or can he share the experience of how universities in North America work closely with larger universities or smaller land grant community colleges, and all of them together to deliver this holistic education to learners in a particular university? Because it's definitely a tall order for one university to do holistic education when they don't have the capacity and resources. We can have them on paper, but on action, it's extremely difficult. It needs to be a multi-stakeholder participative approach. So can he have any examples to showcase?
Yeah, please.
I will add something, Mr.
No,
Chairman.
so now let Professor Garbari answer this question first.
Mr.
Are you
Chair-
there with us? Are you
Mr.
there?
Chairman.
Yes, I am. Yeah, I'm here.
I am Professor BP Veerabhadrappa from Kuvempu University, Vice Chancellor, Karnataka. When we really talk about reforms.
So can we just answer his question? Otherwise, we'll lose the thread. Please wait
No,
for 1 minute.
I'll just complete in 30 seconds.
No, sir. Please wait, sir. Let the decorum. You must listen to the chair. No? Otherwise, what's the point? Professor Karbari, are you there?
Yes, I am.
Professor
Can
Karbari?
you hear me?
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah.
So the person who asked the question is absolutely correct. In order to create a holistic education, we have to create a holistic system. That means all the stakeholders who are involved, must be part of it. So what we have done is we have made very strong partnerships with our community colleges, very strong partnerships with our high schools, and very strong partnerships with the community around us, including with the corporate world, in order to create what is needed for this. So when we talk about skills training, it's not just done at the university, it is done with the corporate partners. When we talk about communication, we're also talking about the media industry and how they are becoming, part of it. So when we teach our students about communication, it's not just taught by the faculty, it's also taught by people who are working in the media industry on a daily basis, just to give you an example. Or to give you a larger example, in the area of nursing, where we have a tremendous program. This is done in conjunction with all the hospitals and the healthcare centers. So we're truly building in a true holistic partnership that is comprehensive. And that is the only way that can be done.
Thank you. I think that's a good point. Sir.
Thank you, Chairman. I am Professor BP Veerabhadrappa, Vice Chancellor, Kuvempu University, Karnataka. I will just complete in 30 seconds. What reforms we are actually talking about, not in skills, but purely in the context of curriculum and core. I think particularly hardcore, softcore, open electives, interdisciplinary approaches, multidisciplinary approaches, and transdisciplinary approaches. I think the core issues are very much on that aspect. And second aspect is purely in the context of gross enrollment ratio, as what Dr. Vivek was talking about yesterday, as to how do we be able to attract student community for this national education policy is very, very important. I think purely in the context of making students to learn more and more in the aspect of interdisciplinary and intradisciplinary is very, very important. And the third most important aspect as to how do we be able to expose our faculty for curriculum and co-curriculum is also very important. In the present context, we understand the faculty is not interested to go for national education policy. I think that is also very important reforms that in the context of holistic education. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you. Thank you. Anybody else?
Yeah.
Yeah, please, sir.
May I say?
Yeah.
This is small addition to the lecture of Madam, Monica Madam. Actually, in the ancient Indian literature, we have 64 skill developments. Now we have forgotten. When we are rewriting the history, we should also think about the skill development which were being taught in the ancient period, such as hotel management and garlanding and how to know the correctness of gems and tourism, cultivation, beautification. There are so many things taught in the 64. We said it's Chatushashti Kala. So we are forgetting. This should be added in skill developments, which are being forgotten now.
Thank you. Thank you. So,
So actually, this is with regard to Madam Garg's talk. First time I have heard in a couple of fora about the Sanskrit in UP. NEP is very clear about the emphasis on Sanskrit, but most of the fora we have not been able to discuss how to take Sanskrit, particularly the language, outside the departments and bring it to the larger section of students. And it is going to help in connecting what we call the Indian system. Is there a way you can talk about which your model could be replicated in other states? Thank you.
Thank you. You can get in touch with Sampurnanand Sanskrit University. We have started online training programs in employment-oriented courses, which are contemporarily relevant. Courses related to the Sanskrit knowledge system associated with, say, astronomy, yoga, philosophy. So, you can connect with them. I'll give you their address. And it is an online program which is being offered by the Sanskrit teachers of the colleges beyond the college hours. In the evening, in the late evening, they offer these courses. I'll give you the details of that also.
I'm Suranjan Das, Vice Chancellor, Jadavpur University. NEP has certainly put the higher education system in a transformative mode. We are speaking of outcome-based education, we're speaking experiential education. But one of the point is that, and to the panel, who would be offering the outcome-based education? Who would be offering the experiential learning? Do we have the right type of faculty? Have we adopted a comprehensive policy of providing orientation, refresher courses to the existing faculty at a time when it is becoming very difficult to maintain the infrastructure of a university like Jadavpur, which is number 4 in the NIRF ranking, at a time when the faculty recruitment is being drying up, at a time when the library, there's a severe depletion of resources for purchasing books, journals, etc. Aren't we talking of something that we are putting the cart before the horse? We need to put the horse before the cart. That is the point.
I think I totally agree with Professor Das. And that's one of the reasons, whatever I read about outcomes-based education and its history, many countries have withdrawn from the early definition of outcomes-based education. And it's important for us to first define what we mean by outcomes-based education, and also what we mean by holistic education in the context of where we are currently located, particularly the current context of the 1,000+ universities and 45,000 higher education institutions in this country. Where are we placed at this point in time? Is it an utopian dream, or is it something that we can gradually graduate into, or are we going to leapfrog or transform or reform? These are the questions facing us, and there is a need for a larger debate. And I can see that it's important. And from the, in my presentation, I was mentioning about some sort of a self checklist, which should be looked into so that we can prepare ourselves gradually, slowly for the next phase. But that said, we should also be mindful of the technological advancements that are happening. And earlier we discussed about student-teacher ratio. Now, what happens if a MOOC or a micro-credential that your institution offers is taken by 10,000 people? There is a possibility that now many Swayam MOOC courses are taken by more number of people. What kind of support services we put in place what kind of online help desk that we put in place is a question. Now, many institutions that, even with our help that are producing MOOCs for Swayam and other public platforms, do not have the bandwidth to actually provide student support services as we speak. So I think we need to look at the whole outcomes-based education, of course, from the industry point of view, from the market point of view, from the learner's point of view, but also internally as to how institutions can gear up themselves so that not only we define the way that we want to define, but also it's contextualized to the Indian context.
Thank you. Yeah, I think we are run out of time now. We will wrap up this session. I will request co-chair Professor Dhrubajyoti Chattopadhyay to sum up the deliberations.
Very good afternoon to everybody. I'm sure that the lunch is ready, but I just want to share with you some food for thought before you go for the lunch. What we have learned, what are the, if I consider it as a session where we look for the outcome of this session. Now, this is very important that when Professor Karvari actually mentioned trying to define this holistic education and how actually the holistic education can, we can consider it a little bit different from our traditional education. There is no question of any confrontation between the two, but it's a question of evolution of education. And the evolution of education always, he mentioned very rightly that from the I to T to pi to end with the comb-shaped education. And thereby we have to understand this holistic education. So it's a process of evolution, which is going to give us all different types of things. And there, the most important thing we have to keep in our mind that one size fits all. That's wrong concept. This is different, and we have to apply it similarly, differentially between all the cases. And he also mentioned about the advantages of this experiential learning, which has been echoed by the other panelists also. But one of the major important thing is where we find that in the holistic education, it focuses on the physical, emotional, intellectual, spiritual, and social development of the student, where the teachers plays the role of a facilitator to induce development in students. Here comes a question about where from we can get the faculty members with this change in their attitude. So that is the responsibility of us. We have to create an environment and make it clear to the people that how this thing is possible. And we heard also that from our panelists, there are different processes already there. Now, when we look at this change in the pedagogy, it's rightly mentioned by Professor Karvari that we have to consider it as an open, flexible, as well as a multidisciplinary curriculum, which is mentioned by one of the Karnataka University Vice Chancellor very rightly, that this is actually what we have to mention to them. And then the applied knowledge, the different types of workforce skills, and the effective relationship between the different things which are available with the course curricula, as well as whatever skills we are talking about, these two should have a very important relationship. And just in continuation, when Madam Garg actually given very important case studies. The NIFT is an example of a case studies, which actually I found that a lot of you actually found that it's very important. And her major emphasis regarding the vocational skill and training, which is always looked upon as a lower than the mainstream education, this whole mindset has to be changed first. Otherwise, why the people are going to? Because I remember UGC introduced the vocational training BVOC courses in 2008. And when different colleges actually introduced that, the students who qualified in the BVOC, they wanted, oh my goodness, we cannot get entry for the postgraduate courses. But BVOC is not for postgraduate. BVOC is going absolutely mentioned over there why BVOC course is there. So people never actually considered that. And I remember from different universities, it has been sent to the UGC, know what we are going to do with our VVOC students. But that's not the case. That means understanding of this, what we mean by the vocational courses, that is much more clarified right now when in this NEP 2020, we are talking about this vocational skill and training incorporated into the mainstream education itself, not as a separate one. Now, so integration of the skill training and the mainstream education is something which also given by the UP experience by Madam Garg, and I could find that there are a lot of very interesting experiential learning like application and the practical aspects. And she clearly mentioned about that here the industry has to be incorporated in such a way, role of industry also in the curricular development, all these things we have to consider. And those are the very important considerations right now we have to understand. Now, at the end, our other panelist, Dr. Shadrak, he actually given very important points regarding what we mentioned by the outcome-based education. Now, when we said that outcome-based education, I think Professor Suranjan Das actually rightly mentioned about that who understands what is outcome-based education. We mentioning about, oh, okay, we have CO, we have PO, there should be CO-PO mapping. And believe me, when I have gone for the NAC, for different colleges for this NAC thing, and when we asked, they said, oh, we have done CO-PO mapping. When I asked what they meant by PO-CO mapping, they said, oh, this is our course, and these are the programs where these courses are. They even don't understand what's the difference between the program and the course, and that is one of the major problems. So thereby, when we say about this outcome-based education, I think he mentioned very importantly that when we look at that OBE as the educators, and so there are policy outcome, there are students outcome, there are market outcome. In all different aspects, we have to consider this. And we have to evolve the process how in our universities and colleges, we could give a training about how actually you have to do the course outcome thing, how you have to look for the post program outcome thing, and how you make a correlation between the CO and the PO, the course outcome and program outcome. If this is not going to be done, I'm sure this is the responsibility of us to do that, and we have to do that. And our initiatives, I'm sure, with all these vice chancellors who are present over here, if we take this initiative, definitely we can try to make this program a real successful one. So to end with, I just wanted to mention about the different types of important commitments for the faculty members, commitments for the head of the institutions, as well as the engagement of the different stakeholders with our education system. And thereby, I find that our panelists mentioned very importantly that when you were talking about this ChatGPT-4 and other things, why not the AI detection initiative, and plays a very important role in making understanding throughout our country the importance of this outcome-based education. So the points which I think we have to consider very importantly. Before that, I just give one statistics regarding the Karnataka. I could find that in 2021, 19.51% of teacher eligibility test aspirants cleared the test in Karnataka, which is something considered that improvement of 4% than the previous year. And then when it has been looked upon, it was found that this eligibility test thing, which is considering the different aspects of the teacher education, there is a huge failure of understanding what we mean by the eligibility itself. So there are things what we are looking at. To end with, I just wanted to mention that the multidisciplinary move, which is actually the planning of the NEP, is one of the most important area which we have to consider as an NEP recommendation. The experience also matters, and this experience, which is going to help us in the experiential learning process, is definitely going to help us in this whole process. So there are a lot of learnings also from the pandemic period in terms of access and quality need to be scaled to a new level, and new models of hybrid learning built to suit up this hybrid work world. With a powerful demographic age and a potentially transformational education policy at work, India can hopefully look forward to finally evolving an education system that works for all. Thank you. Namaskar.
Thank you, Professor Chattopadhyay, for aptly summing up and giving your own inputs. Our time has come to close this session. I thank the panelists and the co-chair for their inputs. I thank the participants for taking part in the Q&A and listening and observing all the things we have said from the dais. Thank you very much, and I close this session.
I thank on behalf of AIU and USTM, all the panelists who had chaired the session. Now we have a special announcement from our Honorable Vice Chancellor, sir. I request our Honorable Vice Chancellor, sir, Professor G.D. Sharma, sir, to kindly announce.
Just two announcements. The first is after this session, there is a lunch in the same place. And the second announcement, those VCs who have given the consent to sign an MOU with the USTM are requested to kindly stay back after the fourth technical session. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Now we disperse for lunch and we will again start with the technical session 4. I request the student volunteers to kindly collect the recommendation forms from our Honorable Vice Chancellor, sir, which had been circulated for this session. Our student volunteers kindly collect the recommendation form that has been circulated among our Honorable Vice Chancellors for this session.